love it, hate it, or think it's overrated, you have to ask the question, was Frieren the best anime of last year? Now, this is sort of a follow-up or part 2 to a video I made back in April of last year titled Frieren is in a class of its own and nothing comes close in 2024. I suggest you watch that first. But basically in that video, I talked about my love for the anime, how amazing it was. Then I looked at the anime that came out or was airing at that time to see what compared or came close to Frieren, but I didn't necessarily want to do that again. So instead of going off of my memory talking about how peak Frieren is, throughout the first half of January, I decided to rewatch all of Frieren. And I wrote some notes of things that stood out to me, things I didn't notice before, things I maybe forgot, or things that have an impact on a second watch. Starting off a lot more emotional on a second watch since you got to know the characters versus where you knew nothing about them when you first watched. When Himel passes away in that moment, Frieren is us, the viewer. Why would we be emotional and heartbroken over someone we really don't know? Of course, upon the second watch, it's tough, like really tough. Tears were already rolling down my face. Yeah, early on, the party tried their best to instill into Frieren different lessons, all these feelings, emotions, cherishing people, the things around them, and the importance of time. They want her to carry all of this with her in her long life and possibly pass on to the generations to come. We see as the episodes go by that their words didn't fall on deaf ears. One example, in episode 4, we see Aizen point out to Frieren saying that she's changed, that she never cared about other people's time. Himel and the others possibly discussed taking on apprentices so that they could help Frieren in her long life, so she won't have to struggle as much and so she won't be lonely, which there could be some truth to that since Himel wanted all these statues made so she wouldn't be lonely. Also, the heroes party have told other characters about the things Frieren will struggle with or have a hard time doing, like understanding emotions or conveying them. Maybe I just forgot this or overlooked it, but early on it's established that Frieren tries to relive the adventures she had with the heroes party so she can retain those memories as much as possible before they eventually fade from her memory. Time and time again, characters always acknowledge and admit their weaknesses or being afraid, like for example in episode 6.
アイゼン、手が震えてる。怖いの？
あ
あっさり認めるんだね。
あ、怖がることは悪いことではない。この恐怖が俺をここまで連れてきたんだ。
To me, when you have characters like that in any type of media, I know I'm experiencing something truly special. Something I noticed is, why does every creature that gets killed just kinda disintegrates? I understand the demons and the spirits because it's their mana particles, but why the dragon? I guess they also have mana? Frieren tries not to interfere with people's business and choices so that they can learn from their mistakes, as we see in episode 7 where Himel decides not to kill the demon child, Frieren knowing full well what the outcome will be. This is the first time we see that Himel, who is beloved by everyone, who people are inspired by and look up to, isn't perfect. Also in episode 7, even though a millennium has passed, Frieren still remembers Flame's face. Low-key, this has some of the best battles in recent anime, since most of the time it's strategic and planned out. Obviously there's some fights where Frieren and Fern just overwhelm their opponents with basic attack magic, but that's not always gonna be the case against stronger opponents, which we see when they have to fight their clones. Frieren doesn't use flashy spells because Himel scolded her for it, which I thought it was because it wasn't worth expending the mana for it, and because basic attack magic is all you need to defeat most modern mages. Frieren might low-key be one of the rawest anime protagonists, aside from episode 10 where she tells Ora to herself. In episode 8, the fact that she is being hung by her neck, unfazed, just looking down on this dumbass demon, letting him think he's won, and when he tries to beg for his life, like the fact that one of the things Flamel taught Frieren early on was, yo, fuck them bitch ass demons. Whenever you come across them, do not hesitate, it's on sight. Hell, even Flamel herself is kinda raw. In an instant, she eviscerates these demons. Also in episode 15, Frieren is under a sleeping curse, but as soon as she was woken up, she knew what needed to be done. And don't even get me started on the mage exam arc. But real quick, episode 26 is just so cold and hype. Goosebumps, like come on. Speaking of the major Zan arc, I know most people prefer the first half, which I get, it's what makes Frieren unique and different from most anime, but honestly the second half is just as good as the first because the world is even further expanded upon and we're introduced to so many different characters, a wide array of spells and how some of them work. We learn that magic is basically all about visual imagination. How creative is your mind? Aside from the Go Danken, Rebel low-key might be one of my favorite characters. He's pretty interesting. Even though he has killed before, it's not something he enjoys doing. He has to mentally prepare himself to do it, and when Fern tells him that she's killed one of his party members, it's quick, but you can see his left eye twitch. We see he's bothered by senseless killing. A lot of the characters have depth, their viewpoint on things differ from one another, and they have such different personalities that make them really stand out. And thankfully I didn't have tears again by the end of it because
涙の別れなんて僕たちには似合わない。
now, even though all the anime for 2024 are finished, some are still airing, I'm not gonna go through each season kind of like I did before, talking about what comes close to Frieren or what doesn't. Instead, I already have 8 anime that if you look me dead in the eye and said blah blah is anime of the year, I'll be like, you got it, that's valid. But real quick, the anime that weren't or aren't yet on the same level as Frieren or the other 8 anime, nonetheless they were either good, pretty good, or just fun to watch. They are The Wrong Way to Use Healing Magic, Solo Leveling, Tis Time for Torture Princess, Shangri-La Season 1 and 2, Train to the End of the World, Girls Band Cry, Windbreaker, Sound Euphonium Season 3, The Fable, Konosuba Season 3, Viral Hit, Kaiju Number 8, Oshinoko Season 2, The Elusive Samurai, Wistoria, No Longer Allowed in Another World, Makine, Blue Lock Season 2, Jobless Reincarnation Season 2, and ReZero Season 3. I know those last two, you're like, what the hell, dude? Are you fucking dumb? Look, I like both of these series, but they both have a glaring problem. They stick out like a sore thumb. It's the MCs. One is still a mentally older guy who was a creep weirdo, and the other is a simp for a girl who doesn't even know what love is. It is what it is. Now, these first 4 anime I did talk about in that first video. That's the Apothecary Diaries, The Dangers in My Heart Season 2, Delicious in Dungeon, and Yata Garasu. I'm not gonna say much about these anime because I had talked plenty about them in past videos, and I'm gonna end up talking about them again when the Crunchyroll Awards come around. So the only thing I will say is these anime are amazing and phenomenal. They excel really well at being the type of anime they are. I'll put links to the past videos in the description below if you're curious. Now let's talk about the other 4. Senpai is the Otokonoko. I know this will throw you for a loop. Now I'm just gonna get this out the way. I only watched 2 anime YouTubers, so when it came time for them to talk about the summer season and this anime, it just felt somewhat disingenuous and ignorant. This is not just a romance anime with a cross-dressing protagonist. Like dog, I go into each of these seasons completely blind, and just based off the raw trailer I knew it wasn't just some damn romance anime, which isn't even the focal point. It's way more than just that. It's about mental health. Like, do I even really like this person? Do I even like myself? Am I just trying to please those around me so they don't end up leaving me like my parents? Is this to fill the void of not having my parents' love? It deals with sexual and gender identity issues, who you are as a person, accepting and embracing that part of you, not being afraid or discouraged when others make fun of you, or when even your own mother doesn't accept you for who you truly are, to the point where they just look at you in disgust like there's something wrong with you.
なんでスカートを履こうとしてるの？あなた変よ。
母さん。
やめて。
I will say I liked how it was the father instead of the mother who was the one that was accepting and supporting the Makoto with whatever they did and will do. But the reason why I'm including this is because the author decided to make a story about a very sensitive subject that most people won't care about because they want to escape from reality when watching anime, which I get, but it's commendable for tackling something like this without it being too heavy, overbearing, or depressing. I think it's well balanced it has its serious moments, but it also has lighthearted and comedic moments. Plus, there isn't many anime like this. The only thing that I found that was similar was an anime from 2011 called Wandering Sun. So if you did watch Senpai's Otokonoko and were interested in finding something similar to it, this is your best bet. But just read the manga since the anime didn't adapt everything. Dandadan, I don't need to spend too much time here. This lived up to the hype. This was tied with Delicious and Dungeon as my favorite new anime of last year. If I had to shortly summarize it, it's just an exhilarating ride of weirdness, wackiness, nuttiness, shenanigans, and a living human anatomy mannequin that has a love story, because why not? Even though this is kind of your standard shonen anime, it goes beyond that. I think the writing is solid, with there being moments of it being really good, and while the strongest thing about this anime is how weird and different it is, I think another strong thing about this anime is having a really good cast of characters that are all likable. There's no reason to dislike or hate them. They've all had things they've been through. They have a great dynamic. They mesh really well together, and even though they fight these spirits who are trying to kill them, they can be sympathetic and relate to them, as we see in episode 7. I think this episode really hits hard and resonates with you if you are a parent or like a parental figure. It's easily a top 3 episode of last year. From the way it was directed, the cinematography, the emotions, the music, and her final dance, all that with very little dialogue during that segment, a sensational job. It goes to show you, no matter how much good you do, no matter how hard you work, this world will always be cruel. This episode reminded me a lot of how Chainsaw Man was directed. You know, very stylistic. It didn't really feel like I was watching an anime. It was a very cinematic. Now, I will say it's a very peculiar choice to have this show start with these weirdo aliens and end with these possessed weirdo older men. Orb, I don't even know what to really say or where to begin, because you read the concept, you look at it and think it would be boring or it wouldn't be worth investing your time into, but once you get 3 episodes in, you're kind of just blindsided, like, did that really just happen? And from there, you're just locked into this madness of a world. The fact that this young boy is the one that starts this chain of events for things to start progressing so that this world can change for the better is something that will stick with you for a while. I think that sort of realism plays a big part of making it stand out, like how they treat the so-called heretics like they're some kind of monster for trying to make a change, have an opinion, or just trying to gain more knowledge. Now, I'm not gonna sit here and act like I'm good with history or know much about astronomy. All I know is Aristotle and Bruno. To me, that aspect of the anime combined with the church, how they operate and view things in this world, just remind me of the Salem witch trials. Honestly, it goes to show you, just write a good story with compelling characters that have ambition and motivation to strive for something bigger, wanting to have an impact on the very foundation of this world, even if they have to be a sacrifice to be that stepping stone. Yeah, things may seem dark and depressing for them, but they hold on to that hope and strong belief that something big may come out of these supposed sinful acts. Though they may not get to see or know the outcome, at least they'll die knowing they put the effort into trying to shake this world and inspiring others that have the same mindset to continue going forward, to push the narrative that Earth and space are vast, that it's okay to have different opinions. We really don't have to torture people. Act like we got some goddamn common sense. Yeah, definitely recommend this, but it may not be for the faint of heart. Bleach, if we are being honest, this is actually the best anime of 2024. You can call me biased, a meat writer. Sure, maybe Bleach has always been my favorite out of the big 3, but you cannot tell me Bleach has not been on a generational fucking run. From part 1 till now, it has just been straight peak, straight gas. Part 3 went so dummy. It was jam-packed with insanity. The return of Father Aizen, Grimmjow, Nell, Ichigo versus Uryu, Uryu versus Renji, Mayuri and Nemu versus the Soul King's left hand, Shunsui versus Bado, my son Bazby versus Hashwald, and Queen Yoruichi versus Askin.
It should have been me, not him! It's not fair!
Outside of the fighting, we learned a lot more about the Quincy's, Yuha Bak, the Soul King, Uryu, Shansui, and there was the new content that was added. Like, dog, come on, be so for real, you can't deny it. And the final part is gonna be even better and more hype. Like, y'all might not be ready. Now, it's a simple question. Was Frieren the best anime of 2024? Hope you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts. What do you think is the anime of the year? Like and subscribe. Share with whoever you think might enjoy my content. Other than that, I'm out.